Hello everyone, thank God it's Friday. Welcome back to NewsRoom. I'm Chella Smith. This is your Middle East U.S. entertainment news here on YouTube. I air on Fridays. I bring you the latest on reforms and economics of Iraq based on reports put out by the Middle East news media outlets. I do this weekly review and it's based off my interests. Last week we talked about Iran trading in IQD, important packages of controversial laws, Iraqi-Turkey road project, oil revenues, 27 billion integrated gas growth projects, and the federal court's suspension of Article 153. Make sure you're subscribed and turn those notification bells on so when I'm live or when I have an early release show, you are in the know. And don't forget to tap the like button so others like yourself can find us. Now, let's take a look at this week's headlines. The Parliamentary Finance Committee has spoken out about holding meetings with the government's agency to follow up on implementation of the budget, confirming Parliament is awaiting the arrival of instructions to implement the law, pointing out that the government's appeal will not affect the law as a whole. The House of Representatives has voted earlier on the draft budget bill with the amounts that are the highest in history of Iraqi state and the amount to 200 trillion dinars, the bulk of which will be for operational sides. A member of the Finance Committee, Representative Mustafa Al-Kawari, says that Parliament is awaiting the arrival of the instructions for implementing the budget by the Ministers of Finance and Planning. Al-Kawari added that the entry into force of the budget means that they will be forcing a real implementation of ministerial platforms of the government of Mohammed Shia Sudani, which Parliament voted on earlier. He pointed out that the laws include a large number of service projects, and if they are implemented correctly, the citizens will see a clear change in general conditions. The Finance Committee has begun to hold its meetings, and upcoming priorities have been identified in order to follow up and monitor the implementation of the budget, followed up on the government's mechanisms in this regards, and implement the ministerial platforms. The coming days will witness a host in the Parliamentary Finance Committee of the concerned government agencies to follow up on their plans that were developed in implementing the budget law. Al-Kawari went on to say that the government's appeals against the budget will not hinder the implementation of provisions, with the exception of 6 paragraphs that the Federal Supreme Court ruled to suspend their implementations until the appeal case is resolved, and these paragraphs will not affect the law as a whole. For his part, the Representative Kahim Al-Tuki stated that the previous legislative terms focus on the budget's law for the fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2025. Al-Tuki continued, the instructions for implementing the budget will be issued as soon as the Minister of Finance, in cooperation with the Minister of Planning, and the amounts will be distributed to public spending units for ministries, institution, bodies, and local administrations in the governorates. He pointed out many projects will be launched, some of which are a strategic nature in addition to projects dating back to the past years, meaning that they will be continuing. The budget deficit is estimated at 64 trillion dinars per year, but the government and parliamentary agencies expected the possibility of repaying this deficit through surplus oil sales and the difference in prices of the barrel between what is established in the law and what is sold officially. According to Earth News, the Central Bank of Iraq on Tuesday issues directives to all licensed banks and electronic payment companies to approve the validity of cards for the settlement of salaries, only to be 5 years or more, to reduce the burden of renewal fees on employees. Euphrat News reports the Central Bank of Iraq revealed the accountability of companies involved in fraud on citizens through the platform selling dollars for travel purposes. Many complaints were received by the central bank by citizens regarding their receipt of travel amounts while they did not travel. The deputy governor of the central bank, Amir Hamid Khalif, says in a press statement that the central bank is aware of this and the companies involved have been held accountable and all measures have been taken, including fines the company or banks and compensation to citizens by the companies involved until the limit of the procedures by the central bank has reached the suspension of the company from entering the window as a punishment. Khalif stressed that the central bank takes into account all complaints and takes the necessary measures against against these companies and banks and issue sanctions and compensation to the citizens. Euphrat News also reports the United States extended its exemption to Iraq over the payments of Iranian debt for supply of gas to its electric stations for another 4 months. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has signed an exemption that allows Iraq to pay for electricity to Iran for 120 days. A U.S. official told Readins the new exemption allows Baghdad to deposit Iranian debt in non-Iraqi banks. The U.S. official added that the U.S. decision comes more than a week after signing an agreement between the Republic of Iraq and the Islamic Republic of Iran in Baghdad, under which importers and operated Iranian gas for electric power production plants is traded for Iraqi crude oil and black oil. The agreement was reached after several days of negotiations in which delegations and technical committees from both sides participated. According to the Prime Minister's office, the agreement comes within the framework of the government's effort to address the crisis of supply gas operating power plants, avoiding financial problems and complexities of U.S. sanctions that prevented the continuing payment of import requirements. And the agreement will contribute to providing more flexibility for the gas supply process, operating plants, and stabilizing electric power productions. Shafak News reports the Minister of Foreign Affairs announces Wednesday that the Iraqi government will sign a memorandum of understanding with Venezuela in the field of energy and gas during the current year. A statement from the minister's office received by Shafak News says that the ambassador Haider al-Barak, headed by the Department of America, and his accompanied delegations met with Juan Santana, the Venezuelan Deputy Minister of Oil, met on Tuesday, and during the meeting, they reviewed the distinguished relations in the field of energy and emphasized the need of high-level coordination between the two countries and in OPEC and OPEC+. The statement referred to the preparation of memorandums of understanding in the field of energy and gas between the two countries, which will be signed during the visit of Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Fahoud Hassan to Venezuela this year. On Sunday, July 16th, the Minister of Electricity announced that he would go to Qatar and Turkmenistan to supply them with gas to operate power plants instead of Iranian gas. The central bank issues statements on depriving some banks of dollar transactions. Euphrat News reports the central bank preventing Iraqi banks from dealing in dollars came against the backgrounds of auditing bank transfers for the year 2022 and before applying the electronic platforms and before the formation of the current government as well. The Central Bank of Iraq saying banks deprived of dealing in U.S. dollars are fully free to deal in Iraqi dinars with various services within Iraqi banking system, as well as their rights to deal internationally in currencies other than the U.S. dollar. Economy Baghdad reports on Monday that the Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani directed the urgent and rapid measures to be taken to enable the state to improve the environment for industrial investment. Al-Sudani's office says in a statement that the Prime Minister chaired a meeting dedicated to discussing the reality of industrial sector in Iraq and the path of launching a new industrial initiative to advance this sector in the presence of a number of advisors and representatives of the private sector. Al-Sudani has stressed the government is keen to adopting Promises national industrial projects, which will be a partner to the state of implementing economic development plans, and that the government is serious in the endeavors to advance the industrial reality as part of the economic reform adopted within the priorities of the government's program. And you've been watching Newsroom Weekly Review. I'm Chella Smith, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news here on Reforms and Economics Iraq. I bring you the latest DinarNews without having to keep up with all the different outlets. I'm here on YouTube every Friday, so don't forget to subscribe and turn those notification bells on. If you like my content, you can always leave a thumbs up and share. If you really like my content, you can always seed a super chat or a super thanks in the comment section below. All your donations go towards channel upgrades. We're seeing a lot of memorandums with Iraq, the start of banking and economic reforms. We're also seeing the continuation of suspended laws from the budget law in Iraq. Again, thank you for being a subscriber, and thank you for visiting Newsroom Chella Smith for your trusted DinarNews. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Make sure you join us Fridays, 4 p.m. with Newsroom updates with Chella Smith, entertainment